if you really want to create confusion for your child, you must leave him without purpose in life, and you must leave him without understanding his identity. Really, this makes life so difficult for any person. And therefore, we are going now to deal with the responsibility of the father to confer identity. First, the father establishes moral authority. Secondly, the father confers identity. Now, we live in a world with a massive identity confusion. It is good to train your child to understand where the identity confusion comes from. For instance, if you are a Christian, by definition, you will have some identity confusion because you are born in a natural world, you are reborn in a supernatural world, so you are living with one leg in that world and the other one in another. So since my children were small, I often had to remind them, we are different. We are reborn. We live from above. We bring heaven to earth. That is what we do. God created us His children, and we will usher in heaven on earth. So to help my children understand that they will encounter certain situations where people think in a certain way, do in a certain way, but they will never do it like that. Often I had to say to my child, we think differently, we speak differently, we do differently, because we are different, because we live with a different identity. So identity confusion, if you live in a counterculture like a Christian culture. There are other different subcultures that are also countercultures, but that is one different culture. The other thing that I had to teach my children is that even within this counterculture being a church, the church is not always right. So therefore they got to understand God's calling within the church. And therefore in the broader culture, they got to understand their position in the broader culture as a counterculture of the broad culture. And then even in the counterculture church, there is a sub-counterculture even there. And that is the people that set the trend. My children had to learn they will be trendsetters in a church. So that is a separate group, which is a counterculture of the broader culture, which is the culture that we all grow up. The way people do things on earth. And that is the shortest definition of culture. So your child must understand that his identity is very clearly ring-fenced by a clear understanding of who he is and who he is not. The second thing that brings a lot of identity confusion is what I call the segregated self. The segregated self means the following: that a person has a true me. The true me is what God created you to be. Secondly, the person has an actual me. Actual me is what I live every day of my life, the person that is seen by other people. Then I have a presented me. Sometimes my natural me or my actual me is different to my presented me. Because my presented me I can, for instance, be a father of children, and then suddenly I have a profession, and the moment I walk into my professional clothes as a pastor or as a teacher or as a lawyer, then suddenly my presented me is to that extent different, because I think I must fit into what society expects from me. So now you have the true me, what God created you to be. You have the natural me or the actual me, and then you have the presented me. And this presented me is obviously masked by different things, presented me. And then you also have the perceived me, and this is what other people see. And sometimes we are confused by the different me's that must now live in this world. How do we overcome this? We have to teach our children to really be real. That my private self and my public self would be the same thing. And therefore fathers will have to be the same person at work, at home, on the golf course, or wherever he goes. The best way to become the real person is the following: that you will have people to help you to be totally transparent. Total transparency is brought about by unmasking, and also people helping to see your blind spots. Therefore, it's often good to say to your wife, tell me what you see in me that I don't see of myself. What is wrong with me? Great thing to ask a wife. What is wrong? And I can promise you, they know. And they will have at least 17 of those things that are wrong with you. What is wrong with me? So that she can extract those blind spots that you cannot see. The other way to do it is to unmask. To tell a confidant something that you really not find easy to tell anyone. To just take off the mask. Tell him your struggles. Tell him your fears. It is the best thing to tell children your fears. Why? Because they don't want to see a perfect father. They want to see how to grow up. And you got to role model the process of growing up to your children. Some of the best moments with my children were the moments where I just revealed my stresses, my fears, my struggles in life. And then that big surprise, Dad, you struggle as well? And then almost that expression in the face, can I walk with you, Dad? Because I need someone that can just walk this world of struggles with me, Dad. I need a companion. Belonging is the deepest need of any human being. And if we really want to help our children out of this confusing life, we've got to help them to become the real people God created them to be. The most important in being real is you got to get as close as possible to what God intended you to be, the true me. Therefore, I come across so many people that have never lived their true me because they've never believed that God expected something great of them. I once addressed some people in Egypt. In the audience sat a woman, and at that moment, a young lady, at that moment, I was convinced to pull her towards her true me. I called her to stand up, and I said to her, I am convinced that God has created you to become a leader of leaders. I totally forgot about it. 3 years later, I entered the same space, and at the same training center, a lady walked up to me and asked me if I remembered that I said this about her. I said, I don't remember what I said, and I don't remember you, but I remember there was someone sitting in the second chair, in the first row, that I addressed. Was that you? She said, yes. She said, I just want to tell you that I am now, 3 years later, leading a camp of 700 leaders. I never believed that until you told me that that was God's intended purpose for your life. She stepped into her true me, and the actual and the natural me became the true me, and she presented her true me to other people, and everyone knew this is the one that God created. Your children can know this, and you can help them towards this.